All right, I am going to call the work session to order. I don't have an agenda in front of me. I dropped
here.
the ball on
Right
that.
there.
Al's got one. Thank you.
Just use that.
Okay, I just want to make sure we had public comment at the end, which we do. So good morning. I will kick off the work session we're having on space planning. I'm guessing I'll let one of our key staff here start. Okay.
Mark Rambo.
Mark has raised his hand. So Mark Rambo, good morning. And you guys have the floor. It's your show until you ask for our input.
All right. Well, thank you for all being present today. We continue through the design process, and we're really working to June. So I wanted to set the tone of what today is and what we hope to capture. We're working towards full financials and a recommendation in early June. So today is a step in that process of getting there. We've spent a lot of time, and by we, the proverbial we, it is our design team that has spent a lot of time engaging with staff, touch points with the executive committee, and trying to find alignment on how the building will look, the size, the shape, the feel, its presence on the site. So today, really the main focus and the input that we hope to capture from the commission today is how you feel about what the building looks like, its height, where it sits, and Chad will walk us through a 3D model. But know that there is a recommendation coming in June, and we're building to that point today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chad or Melissa to walk through some of the initial findings.
Good morning, everybody. Melissa Malberg with Progressive. Good to see you all again, and thanks for having us. Thanks for taking extra time. As Mark said, this is a touch point on the way to June, and so today's input is really helpful for us as we wrap up our planning work with all of our partners and pull together the financials and the recommendation for the June session. As usual, I'm holding up Chad's ability to show you what you actually want to see. So I'm going to go fast, but I always like to remind everybody of what we're working towards. And so this project we take very seriously. This is a big deal for our community. And these guiding principles were developed with your staff to make sure that every decision that we make points back to what matters most for the community, for you, for the staff, for the people that we're serving through this facility. So excellent resident and staff experience, stewardship of the county resources, which again doesn't just mean fast and cheap, it means good quality for the longevity of this facility, which leads into the last point around longevity and adaptability. You have all of these in your packet, so I won't spend a lot of time there, but again, I just love to set the stage with this every time because it's just a reminder for us and for you and for everybody listening that these truly are what's grounding our work and the development that you'll see from last time you saw information to now. So I think with that, I'm going to just turn it over to Chad. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Chad Gould with Progressive Companies. I'm going to just get the design model up so we can have a bit of a conversation about the design. So this will be a live look at the model. We can spin around, zoom in, ask questions. Stop me whenever you would like. But there's a lot for us to process today in terms of form, positioning, orientation, basic shape of building. Last time we talked about things, we had the bulk of the building in this orientation, and we had a chamber pavilion on the side, and we were entering into the side. And with this group, we got some really great feedback, some suggestions to explore. Number one, really making that entrance as intuitive as possible. So we think that means putting it kind of right in the center where everyone's expecting it to be. And then the other thing we discussed was, hey, let's explore turning this 90 degrees to be more in that hospital orientation to present to the site a little bit better. And then let's slide it forward so it has a little bit more presence on the site. So that's what you're seeing today. We're setting up really this viewpoint of the main entrance, a northwest to southeast orientation for the bulk of the building. And then we've got a commission pavilion on the side for this space and its support areas. So how it works. From Fuller, developing really two sort of smaller parking areas to break down the scale of that, bisected by a pathway that connects to bus stop along Fuller and to sidewalks for pedestrians and bicycle arrivers. If you were to turn left into this parking area, you'll come forward, kind of turn around, you'll be able to see the entrance at that point and make your decision about parking. If you were to come by and drop off this direction, you can drop off and pull into park. So primarily for the resident experience, they'll be parking in these spaces up front and entering through this plaza space. Wanted to give you a little bit of a view of what things are looking like from Fuller as you turn on to Kent Drive. So orientation is fairly close to, sorry, Dennis. So we're getting a visual, actually let me sort of zoom in this field of view just a bit so we can get a little bit closer. It's not going to be better than me. But as you turn onto the drive, I think you're going to be able to be pointed at the entrance or the broad side of the building and frame that in. And as you come around a drive, I think you're going to be driving past that entrance plaza. You'll see where you're going to go before you park. All the pathways from the cars to the building are lined up this way, so you're going directly to the receiving side of a sidewalk and drop-off area. Okay. Let me just give you a feel for how that shape is looking like. So one thing you'll notice here, the building is elevated slightly. This is doing a couple things for us on site. One is there's a grade change from the left of this image to the right of this image, which allows us to get a lower level on this east side. That's super helpful for tucking our mechanical systems underneath. And things like loading dock and other functions can happen down there. I think that grade change also helps make us a little safer from potential vehicles driving into the building. All these things we have to consider today, right? The downside of that is it's not as easy as just rolling in on a flat floor if you have accessibility needs. So we've got a couple of gentle sloped walks that happen on both sides that bring you up to entry level. Let's spin back around to the Bradford side, and we'll talk a little bit about how that's shaping up. So the Bradford side is primarily has a lot for staff parking. Here, like if you entered here, you would turn right if you were headed to Network 180, continue through here to that parking, or turn left into this lot or into this lot here. Much like the other side, all the parking faces the building, so the circulation is intuitive. And we've got a drop off along this lane and another sloped walk to mediate the grade there. So let's take a look at really what that looks like from entrance. So let's get some sunshine on that side. So last time we talked about the building, really, this orientation, it's a little bit more difficult in terms of our sun exposure. You get a lot of broadside sun exposure on that southwest face. So what you will notice is primarily doing narrower punched opening windows on this side and having deep windows, so those primarily can self-shade and they're a little bit smaller. So more brick and a little bit less glass on this facade. And as we get around to the north, the openings start to get larger. And onto this side, we can have a little bit more glass. So sort of tuning those facades to the solar needs. Keeping in mind, the operational energy that this building consumes is going to be 2/3 of its footprint, carbon footprint, are in operations. So let's take a look a little bit from Kent Drive on the east. Again, this is on that 10-foot lower area. Loading dock is off to the right here. Kind of getting here closer. So loading dock is here. We've got some mechanical spaces here. We've got another entrance here. We'll have functions in that lower level that do need daylight and human activity. So there's central services and fitness are down on this side. Chamber Pavilion, we're still working through its orientation and exiting, but likely there'll be a back exit out on this side. Clear front door. Small plaza space, but still feeling kind of civic, we think, we hope. So, do we want to talk a little bit about how we're feeling about this orientation? Do we think this is a positive move?
Yeah, we can do that. Commissioners, if you have, yeah, Commissioner Morales?
Right now is the entrance is facing southwest?
Southwest, yep,
Okay.
yeah. So it's
Can we
facing
see how that would look
southwest.
like in the morning? Like, I feel like it would just look a little bit ominous if it's like fully in shadow, like first thing in the morning.
Let's see, let's go the other way. Yeah, so in morning, it's gonna be in shade, right? And then
Okay,
as
it's not as
the,
dark as I thought though.
as the day progresses, it will be in sun and then towards sunset here. Right, so I think one of the things that we're also hoping to achieve is just get some cover there, right? So if it's raining, if you need to stop and get your keys, your phone, whatever it is, you can get out of the weather. So there's a little bit of a canopy feature to protect you there. So I think that southwest, probably in the morning, northwest would probably be the one that's super dark, right? We're still gonna get some ambient around the side of the building.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't as dark as I expected it was gonna be.
Commissioner Steck? Oh, you go ahead, Wally.
So, for parking, you indicated staff will be parking in the back. What about, commissioners, where would we be parking?
Oops. So, right now, we've got basically 3 zones of parking. We're not sort of at the altitude to say where the commissions are parking. I would imagine they would park in the back, because there's an entrance here that will get you to the commission support spaces more directly without going through the front lobby space, we'll say.
Yeah,
So likely they'll be back here.
back there.
I think that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss the, sheltered parking, I'm thinking, in the winter, like, traversing across these parking lots in the snow.
We'll have ballet for you, Wally.
Yeah, it's like good hardy Michigan folk, we can, yep. My son would be wearing a t-shirt and shorts, right, so.
And one more question, what is the, usable lifespan of the building? How long is it intended to serve the county?
I think our goal is that it's a flexible structure and, we're talking about numbers like a 50-year building for sure, so. That's probably not out of line with the team's expectations.
Commissioner Steck?
Thank you, Jerry. So I know that you have worked hard at juxtapositioning this building and the Network 180 building.
Yeah.
My first impression in looking at this rendering, it still looks a little
So close.
chunky.
Oh, gotcha.
And there's probably a good reason, and so I'm going to ask, is there a reason not to push the entire building, new building back so that it sort of meshes more consistently with the front of the 180 building? Or I guess that's actually the back of the 180 building.
Yeah, that back corner there.
Yeah, or further to the south so that there's more space and it doesn't look like they're just looking at each other from strange angles.
Yeah, for sure. I think what we appreciate about this scheme right here is this little courtyard space in between. I think also, right now, the hospital kind of covers this historic entrance to that building. So we're really liking that this creates a little bit of a garden space that's a little bit more intimate, allows you to get closer to that architecture, even though this isn't an entrance. And then we are planning for a staff entrance over here that is a little bit more discreet and private and out of public eyes. So, yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Our reaction to it right now is we think it's a little too close. So,
Well, it's not just
Yeah.
too close, but also, I mean, if you were asked to design both buildings, you wouldn't put it like this.
at
I'm
the same
guessing.
time, probably not.
And whether the face or whatever that back face, front face, whichever it is of the Network 180 building couldn't correlate better with the front of the new building. And that probably adds $10 million to the cost, so I won't want to do that, but it's just an issue that I keep coming back to. And that, and then the chambers, are we going to put the Calder back on top of our chambers building?
That would be awesome for them.
No.
But I think, you know, let's just, I think the idea of sculpture down here and artwork it's something that we have today that should, we would love to find places for the community to still bring artwork in, so at every entrance, maybe there's some signature pieces. Just the ability to bring artwork to the site would be a lovely, carry forward from this spot.
Well, I guess my final, I mean, if this is as good as we can juxtaposition those two buildings, I get it, but it still looks a little chunky to me.
Yeah, so I would say we've been testing this quite a bit. I'm gonna work on getting it a little bit further away. Right now, it's 30 feet at this pinch point, and, you know, that's the tightest that we're allowed to make it. So I'd like to see us get a little bit further back, and I think that will loosen up this area a little bit more and feel a little bit better. You're right. That's the one kind of spot I'm like, oh, a little tight there. So we'll work on that.
All right. Commissioner LeGrand?
Thank you, Chair. I really like this orientation for the new building. The chunkiness doesn't bother me quite as much, and I do like the thought that maybe we're conserving space if we'll have other buildings in the future. And this may be like completely in the weeds, but I love the walkways, how they go to the bus stop, and it looks very direct to get to either the health department or the administration building. And like I said, here we are in the weeds. The only thing I'm imagining is like a 95-degree day in summer and walking across that completely unshaded walkway. And you've got all these beautiful trees. It's maybe not your job to consider where they go, but whoever's job that is,
Yeah,
I think we should create some shade on those walkways.
absolutely. I'll be transparent and self-serving in the fact that I didn't put a lot of trees there because I wanted you to see the building from Fuller in this view right
Okay.
here. And
Okay,
when I put trees in there, I was like, well, I can't see
Yeah.
the entrance anymore.
That's
But yeah, this needs to be humane, right? And
Yeah.
it's, right now, it feels pretty bleak. So, yeah, this is just an architect's idea of landscape, so
Gotcha.
there will be a landscape design coming. I use 4 trees in all these models, so, ask for a little grace on the landscape.
Commissioner Ponstein?
Thank you, Chair Green. So, I mean, if you wanted my opinion on how it looks and all of that, I should have brought my lovely wife, who's better at that than I am. The real thing that I have that always strikes me, and I'll just add quickly, I don't think they were talking about that Calder out there. The one on our roof would be nice to
Oh,
be.
yeah. I'm sorry.
Or get a, well, not a Calder, but a painting.
It's part of the Calder, yeah.
Calder painting, yeah. So anyways, we can get a new artist, because I know he's not living anymore. So, no, but,
Something interesting could happen here, right? For sure.
yeah,
And that's visual, right? For everybody that's inside the building, we'll be able to look down
well,
on
the
that.
ones that are flying over.
Well, and for staff here, like, that's the nice thing. If you were in the city building, you could look down and see this roof, so.
Okay, so,
I thought that was a green roof.
We're showing it as a green roof, but it was suggested that maybe that could be considered another, surface for artwork.
oh, I don't mind the green roof. I was thinking on the other part of the building, on top. Never mind. that's
Yeah.
a side issue. So you travel around the world, you see churches that have been standing for 100, 200 years, buildings that long. Why is it, with all of our technology, all of our state-of-the-art building expertise, that a life of the building is only 50 years?
That's a great question. I think for us, we're getting back towards longevity in buildings. But when you think about something like a stadium, for example, like our Van Andel Arena, it's already past the life expectancy of a stadium. It's like 30 years. Think about the investment of that, right? So we think a lot about that. I think the things that make buildings difficult over time are, the hospital's a good example, right? Very tight column spacing, very low floor-to-floor height, so you can't add infrastructure over time. So this building has very generous floor-to-floor heights and a much more reasonable column spacing. So the setup would be there to come in and refit this building for a different use in future, should this turn into something else, right? It's difficult to renovate purpose-built buildings that have restrictions like, in the 50s, they just didn't consider that we would have air conditioning to all these floors, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why buildings don't last. And the other thing is just the first cost versus life cycle cost, right? Of when you think about a cathedral, that stone is going to be stone for 150 years. Our building materials typically don't have that kind of lasting value in terms of their quality. So it requires a bigger first cost investment. And we are oftentimes trying to, as people here in West Michigan, scrappy people trying to get things done on budgets. And so first cost sometimes comes to bear. So I think that's why buildings don't last. It's hard to add infrastructure, and then the first cost quality of materials impacts things.
So I'm the problem of not having a my wife doesn't have cost.
Yeah, that's right. See, she wants to build for 150 years. But think about the building, the county courthouse that was downtown here, beautiful Richardsonian building that we demolished. It could still be here today.
Want to interject just real quick? When we say 50 years, I see that as the minimum. We're building robust, strong structural construction. We have really large floor plates that give us the flexibility to have change over time. The hospital, some of it dates back to 1922. It's over 100 years old. I see our investment in this structure being similar to that. What we can't predict is how is the county going to change? How is our desired land use going to change? We may want to knock this building down for some other reason 50 or 60 years from now, but we're building it so that it can last 100, no problem. So I think that's what Chad's articulating too, is a stadium, those uses change over time pretty quickly, and it's really hard to predict what county services are going to be 100 years from now.
Commissioner Womack.
Yes, thank you for bringing this architecture to us. It is a great diagram of what's coming. If we move it back any, will that take away from parking?
We'll trade a little parking from the back to the front. I think our goal is to get 150 spaces in the back. So if we did have more parking in the back, we'd have to reconfigure this area likely, or pursue some parking over in this zone too. So it would just shape parking a little bit differently.
Okay, and I appreciate that you say you want to give it a little more space between the two buildings. When it comes to branding, what are some of the options for branding Kent County, whether with our seal or different things that may be there besides our graphics on the door?
Yeah, so we think there's some available site in this area or this area for some kind of a signage or directional signage or branding that lets people know, either where, if you're on the campus or where you're headed. We think this plaza space has also got a great opportunity to get some branding in. And then I wanted to also leave a little bit of time to share some preliminary drawings we have of the interior. We're sort of like we're a bit of a baby giraffe in the interiors right now. It's gonna be majestic, but right now we're kind of finding our footing. But we're off to a great start on the interior, so I want to show you some of that. But I think in that interior, we'll have that chamber as well. Yep.
Before I forget to mention it later, maybe I'm a little old school, but I really like the branding that you have on here now, or lack thereof. I think that it's more timeless and appropriately institutional with the Kent County administration stuff, so that's just my opinion. Pretty strong opinion, though, actually. Commissioner Pakla.
We love the signage here, too. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that we are thinking about multimodal transportation, line of walking to buses. Can you talk a little bit about bikes and other, sort of spaces? One of the things I'm really interested in is both what we're thinking in terms of bike storage once folks are on site. Are we doing protected bike storage in terms of those big boxes? I saw there were some bike racks in the front, but also thinking about the approach and how we're connecting in with existing, sort of bike traffic flow, making sure that the sidewalks that are going up to the front are wide enough that we're not going to get people riding e-bikes and running over pedestrians,
Oh
that
my
kind of
gosh,
stuff,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
All the things on e-bikes at this point in time.
Yeah. Those kids go about 50 miles an hour, I swear, on those things.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's early days, Chris, on where bikes are going. We want to make sure it's part of the conversation, so we showed some here. Likely, we should have some at every entrance. And I think probably even down here, we might have some significant bike parking, because you could go in and potentially use the shower facilities at the fitness if you were a bike commuter coming from far away. So I don't see I could potentially see some covered bike parking, but again, it's just trying to balance, benefit first cost, visual, noise, all the rest of that.
And I led with the question about bike parking, but I think the bigger question is really how are we building this so that when we get to that point of bike conversations, we're not thinking of it as an addition, but it's baked into the broader design, right?
Yep.
I live in East Grand Rapids and we talk a lot about bike lanes and our lack of ability to widen roads to add bike lanes because the infrastructure was put in 100 years ago and the roads are just not wide enough to take anything away, right? So how are we making sure that we're thinking about the bike movement as well as we're continuing to have more and more people interested in bike commuting?
And we'll make sure that's part of the conversation.
Great.
Commissioner DeBoer.
Thank you, Chair. So my question is less about this specific and more about the timing of this project. So it might be more an administration question, but with our desire to spend more cash and, bond for less, do we see this as a critical project that we need to do in the next couple of years? Or is it something that we can hold off a little bit until we can have more capital reserves and put more cash down? I know, I really appreciate all the work, but my concern is that we're just kind of going a little too quickly on this and just being a little bit, I would like to be a little bit more conservative fiscally, I guess, rather than doing this project now.
It's probably more a question for Al than Progressive, so go ahead, Al.
Sure, yes. We don't have an answer for you today. I think that once we get to June and once we have a fully fleshed out project as far as all the details and costs that they're working very hard to determine right now, and quite honestly, we're also chasing inflation with the Iran war and other things that are going on. So that's why I'm not comfortable that I have a good idea yet on where it's going to land. And that will quite honestly determine whether we were to bond this year or next year or some other kind of scenario.
Okay, follow-up question. Are there going to be further discussions and work sessions talking about the finances of this then?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
okay, thank you.
It's not ready right now.
Right, I guess, personally, I mean, I think we would all be excited to have this project done, but I also just want to make sure it's the right timing to do it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's see, Commissioner Womack has a second. Anybody not speak yet? Commissioner Faber and then Hennessy and Coleman. Sorry, Womack, you're getting pushed down.
Sure, just piggybacking off Commissioner Pacla a little bit. I'm kind of thinking about like kiosk services, and, you know, something that we found over at the Department of Public Works was, you know, some of our services start becoming things that can kind of stand alone somewhere else, and somebody doesn't necessarily need to be walking all the way in to have those services. And I wonder what the conversation is with the, you know, our frontline services that are going to go here. Is there anything that could potentially be handled in a different way or a different part of the site via kiosk, and where would that go?
I can handle that. Yeah, so I think one of the things that's been part of the conversation is potentially finding an area on site for some type of a mobile, you know, think of an ATM type thing for services. It's just really, can we get the site plan to settle down enough to really find some good spots for that and work through the queuing and the disruption that would have. So that's on the design team's radar. I don't really have any recommendations today, Steve, but I think it's something we're getting encouraged to look at, and we'll have more info for you next time we see you.
Commissioner Hennessy.
Thank you. You've listed a goal of being environmentally responsible, and I think I see solar panels, and I think I see a green roof, but perhaps you can elaborate on what is being done and incorporate it into this?
Sure. In Michigan now, we need to be solar ready for all of our buildings. So that means the roof needs to be designed to support the weight of solar panels. So that is a possibility in the future. So we're at least there. If there is an appetite for solar panels, they can go on top of this roof or any of these low roofs. We do recommend some green roofs here, just primarily for water, for heat, for insulation, for sound. So it's also very beautiful to look at for the people inside the building, so we're planning on that. And, you know, about 10% of our building industry footprint is really on material selections, so we'll be making the best material selections we can to keep our carbon footprint low.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. Super minor detail, but as I was just looking at on the front side of the building here, where the handicap parking spaces are, at first it looked to me like you walk up and be staring at the stairs, and it might be a little confusing for folks, because I see, from this aerial view that you can go to the right, and then you've got the ramp up right there, but I think that could be a little, I don't know if that's just a signage detail or something, or slightly moving that, green wall back a little bit. I don't know what the solution is, but I could see myself with, pushing my son in his wheelchair, walking up towards the stairs, and then seeing only the ramp to the left and having to go like kind of all the way around.
Yep.
So just for some way to make that clear, to folks that are coming in with wheelchairs or other accessibility needs, that, hey, there's an option right there to get up.
Maybe it would be cool if we drop this wall down as this, we like that it captures both sides because we think it's safer, but that could be at an angle, or it could drop down so that there's more of a visual of this surface, right? I think that could be a little bit more welcoming. So let's take a look at that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hildebrand.
Particularly on that right side, right? Because it's not signage, it's perpendicular. I think we could do that, yeah.
Thank you, Chair Green. I guess two quick things from my standpoint. Again, one of 21 with opinions, but I did want to echo Commissioner DeBoer's comments about the cost, and I certainly share those concerns. You know, anytime we're talking about inheriting, you know, over $100 million in debt, I don't think we should take that lightly or tread lightly on that decision-making. And I get concerned. This is a beautiful building. I think it's needed. It's going to serve the county well. I'm just concerned with acquiring that sizable debt. And if there's any creativity, I know, you know, sometimes it costs more if you don't do it now when the thing's being built. But if there's any creativity about, you know, getting it established and then putting money in it in the first 5 years in some creative ways or something like that, where we can maybe identify cash, you know, over time. I know that's difficult because once you kind of want to get it all done. I get all that, and sometimes it costs more if you don't do it right away. So, but I just want to have us be very sensitive about the cost of this going forward. So, secondly, the chamber. I don't know if you can zoom in on I don't know if it's called the chamber or whatever. Our meeting.
I
Is
can't.
that our boardroom or whatever I don't know what you call that. Is that a board? Is that
Board
a
of
boardroom?
Commissioners Chamber, yeah.
Okay, Board of Commissioners Chamber. And this is maybe goes more to the utilization of the space, so I don't know if there's been any thought about how to utilize that space other than the 2 board meetings we have a month and then our committee meetings, because it's a lot of square footage, it's, you know, nice, and so I don't know if there's any thought about better utilizing that space when the commissioners aren't utilizing it.
Yeah, we've had some good conversations on that topic. Last time we rendered out that space, we were showing a sloped floor with fixed seating and making it very purpose-built for the community, kind of elevating that experience for everybody. But I think we've had a lot of good conversation about, like, yeah, that's great, but we need to use this room for other stuff. So we're talking more about a flat floor similar to this with flexible furniture. So so that's really on our mind, of making sure that it's possible to be used for other community uses.
Do we want to put a pin in that and come back to board? Because I know you have it later.
Sure.
I think we're going to get sucked in on that, probably, knowing how we are as commissioners for the room that we work in. So I'd like to talk more about that. Did you have any others right now, Dave? Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have a first? We'll do a quick second, and then we'll let these guys keep going. We'll do some more discussion. Okay, I don't see anybody else for first. I'm going to take a first, Commissioner Womack, for myself, and then I'll call on you. I just wanted to echo, I think I'd like to see, I think what Commissioner Steck was getting at on the orientation, taking a look at what this whole thing looks like if we push it back maybe 25 to 30 feet to the east. The scale is hard for me to figure out, but to more align it on a 45-degree or whatever that would come up to with the side of the hospital building there. Don't tell me you can just move
Should
it
we
right
try
there.
it? Let's just try it.
Is that gonna break your model?
I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen here.
I know my way around other design programs that aren't
Let's do
CAD,
it.
and this is. You're terrified? Yeah, I'm terrified for them.
Don't worry about it. It'll be okay.
You had it for a second
All
there.
right, there it goes. It's way back there, but I think I
Hate it.
I think I can. I
Not
think
the
I can
intention,
type
I
in
know.
a different number, and hopefully it will.
Yeah,
Okay, so there it is back.
That's closer. Yeah.
That's closer, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit closer to where it used to be lined up. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
from there I can probably line it up a little bit more. Let's just go back another smidger, something like that, and then we'll switch back over here and see what happened. So, okay. A lot of stuff broke, but
your floor, yeah.
we got people in the air, but you can kind of see the massing, right? Hang on, let's turn those people off so it's not so distracting.
People are flying.
Let's turn them off. And to go back and see if we like that position better.
I tend to, I mean, this is just my personal opinion, but I tend to think that looks more intentional. And I like that it's sort of, I know there's nothing in the middle other than parking, but it looks more it like it was put there on purpose instead of, somehow the other way, it looks like we built the 100-year-old building after the brand-new building in my brain. So that was just my 2 cents on that. I get what you guys are trying to do, going for that courtyard space. That's nice, too. But I think we still could probably get some version of that there. So anyway, I appreciate that, you breaking your model for me. But it's nice for us to see. And then I just had another quick note on,
I'm gonna undo this.
yeah, put the people back. Just something that popped into my head on signage, as we were talking about accessibility and that sort of thing, Commissioner Coleman mentioned. I think the less, and I know you guys use this as a design principle, the less signage we need is better, because it should be natural wayfinding. But where we do have signage, this is really in the weeds, but I'd love to get it to a point where we have something uniform that's not. This has just been a camel over the years where we've all put different things together in this space, and there's no uniformity in the signage and and I'd love for it to look a little less like traffic signs and a little more. I think about like the Meyer Gardens. I think they have more of a consistent sign function throughout. That's not, bright blues and oranges and yellows. So that might be a good thing to do. If we can do it in code, I don't know. We might need to have some of that. I don't know if accessible access needs to be blue and that sort of thing, but just a thought. Okay, that's me for now. Commissioner Womack.
Thank you very much. I really want to compliment you on the accessibility for those with disabilities and challenges there, because I see some very good and easy access already, the forethought in that. This was also the first building of Kent County that I ever went to with my brothers, sisters, for some records for my mother's mental condition. So over the years, this building has changed. And from time to time, I run into constituents who they went there, the building had changed, they didn't know where they would go. That's why I think the signage and branding is really important. And here in this building, when my constituents come in, sometimes they're like, which way do I go? I went that way this isn't the right way for the city. Which way I go for the city or county? Also, sometimes on the elevators, people end up on the wrong floor. So I think that's one of the reasons I brought up the branding, and I think it's really important what Chair Green said about the signage. Just to close out, if you could give us a little more information on that great patio that I think I see. If that's what I see, is kind of small, but it looks like there's it looks almost like some space to go outside at the top.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. I think, we're still programming out that floor, but it is a smaller footprint. We would have the possibility to get out onto the top of the 4th floor and have, views back towards the city and even up to the north in this possibility. So that's what we're showing right now.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you so much for your work and for everybody else that's working on it.
Appreciate it.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems like something that if we went in that direction, we talk about long-term flexibility. If we could use a space like that now that could be outdoor or flex, that would be a less involved renovation down the road to make it run the whole width and make it inside and that sort of thing. Is that fair?
That is fair. I think also the programming up there is going to be a little bit looser.
Yeah.
Right. So if you did need a flex space, that would be the floor to put a group temporarily. Right now we're planning out around 10,000 square feet up there. A bunch of that's mechanical, but there will still be a big chunk for us to work through. Yep.
I was just thinking about taking our 3-season porch and putting walls up around it, someday if we need that space, lack of a better term.
That's a Michigan way to do
yeah.
things.
All right. We give the floor back to you. Continue through and we'll do a little more discussion at the end to wrap up.
Yeah, so I think, last time we were with small group, I think Al really mentioned, this sort of dream of service, right? Where we come in the front door and probably we're all very, very hyper vigilant about this idea of wayfinding because this building is so dysfunctional in terms of wayfinding, right? So but sort of the dream is to go through these front doors and see all the things that you need to see to go get the things that you're looking to get. So let me flip over to, it's sort of early days here on this, but let's see if I can find out how to do this. Window. How about we just go to presentation mode? Okay, so, this is sort of our first step into the interior and shaping that out, but I just wanted to share this image today because I think we do have the possibility of working on a vista where we can see, treasurer, deeds, elections, vital records, everything upon stepping in. And, we're working through the shape of this. Should it be broader? We're kind of there, but I think we're on a good path to deliver that vision. We're just not quite running yet. But I think next time you see this, it will have that. I mean, that's the dream, and we're going to make that dream happen, right? That you can see everything you need to see. So that's the possibility. The other thing, we talked a little bit about chamber a few minutes ago. I mentioned the floor, going to more flexible floor. I think the whole vibe of the room is getting a little bit less purpose-built and a little bit more flexible feeling.
A couple things I do want to point out quickly, just because we have your attention to this. You'll notice the way that we've positioned the room. Right now, you're kind of more bullet shaped and it goes deep, and I'm really far away from Commissioner Green and Al, and so your focus is very much on each other. Obviously, that's not bad, but when you're engaging with community participants, that distance can maybe feel far. We've positioned this in more of a wide orientation, so certainly from end to end, you'll be farther from each other, but you'll be closer to community in terms of people that are coming to engage with you in those meetings. So wanted to make sure that was clear as you looked at these pictures. That also gives us some good flexibility with the floor space that's left over where you see the chairs right now.
And there may be some massaging. It might get a little deeper and a little less wide as we sort of start to fit the other program features around it. But in general, these are the kinds of things that are on our mind. I did want to talk a little bit about, share this image, and have hopefully have some conversation about windows and natural light. We have it here. It's kind of, today we have all the shades pulled because of time of day, but it is still a nice feature, right, to have. And in our design model, keep in mind, like, the grade is going down here, so in order to have someone stand up against that window, they would need to climb up the wall and across the planted area. But that's something we want. I think we want to get a comfort level on and a feel of, like, are we all excited about that idea, or is there reservation about it? Because I think that's going to be a pretty big driver for the room.
You ready for the hornet's nest here?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Bring it on.
I will say really quickly, and then I'll let Vice Chair Teal is the first one in line. I want us to have more seating than we do in this room, and this looks like a comparable number of seats. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but this room tends to get pretty tight. So that's just a note that I have. I like the flex. I like that concept in general, to make it flexible. So anyway, but Vice Chair Teal.
Thank you, Chair Green. So just looking at the dais, as somebody who's chaired finance, being able to see when people have questions, having to look all the way down on both sides is going to be incredibly difficult. So I get what you're trying to do with being closer to the people, but when you're actually running the meeting, it would make it incredibly difficult. And then additionally, I worry a little bit about the getting in and getting out of the room quickly and safely. I don't see any sort of like back exit.
There will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
because it looks like it's like solid wall behind us.
That's good, it's sneaky Pete, you gotta go around these little corners and
Okay.
ends. Yeah,
Okay, because I was looking at that far person going, you'd be in big trouble if you were that far person and we all had to go out one way. Because this floor, we've looked at a number of ways and there's some real safety concerns. And I guess if we're building, I want to make sure we're really taking those into account.
yeah, I mean, for the chamber especially, but the whole building. Our team has high empathy for everyone that's working here and all the things we deal with on a daily basis. So, yeah, there'll be exits for commission out the back of it. There won't be public exits, though. We're gonna have those, those will also work, and there'll be multiple ways to get out of this room safely. So that we're gonna get you there. We gotta do a little bit of floor planning in all the areas around there to make sure that's happening, but that's where we're headed.
Okay, can I have one more?
Yeah.
So additionally, I'm a little concerned because I know our staff hasn't necessarily been working on these with the folks that actually have to put it into action. You know, our liaison wasn't necessarily involved in the conversation, our chair wasn't involved in the conversation. So I just hope that we would have those conversations going forward before we get presented something a little bit more. But I also hope that that doesn't mean that our clerk and our treasurer aren't getting their voices heard, because they're the ones that are gonna have to use these spaces. And I think that's really gonna be a holding point, at least for me personally, on, you know, approval of a building.
Thank you. I would say on the dais, this is probably too extreme, the way it's here. But even here, I have trouble sometimes seeing folks that are more in line with me down this way. It's not as big of a deal but I know that I remember when I sat down, like where Commissioner Womack sits, you can't really see your colleagues down this way either. But maybe something that was kind of splitting the difference between where we have here and what we've got in the initial drawing, I think would be nice to see and see what the practicality of that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, we've been thinking about,
Is there a technological solution to this? Like, is this the thing, or?
I thought about that too, but I do think it's,
Some kind of board that says, hey, I want to talk.
I thought about that too, but I do think it's important that we can see most of each other for when we're having discussion and deliberation. So I think that, but I like that suggestion too. Building that in would make the chair's job a little easier with the scratch paper down the road too. Like some kind of we've got a big group and, you know, I don't want to go like full Lansing with a voting board, but like a way that we can like say I'd like to speak and, you know, call on and make a list that way. So, okay, I had Commissioner Steck.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Green. I was just going to follow up on the LRE, for example, has that technology. So it certainly is there that allows you to manage the meeting without having to look me in the eye, though that's not bad either. So it is there, and I assume that that'd be part of it. The other thing that I'm struck here, boy, that center podium looks pretty imposing if I asked to go and speak on that. So maybe there's a way of modifying that a little bit so it's not so daunting. And I don't see the AV capacity for the attendees is there, but I don't see AV capacity for the board members. Is there another screen that you'd be looking at somewhere?
we've got to get there.
Okay.
We're really bootleg copy pre-first draft here.
All right, so put it in the chapter 5 or whatever, but.
So I think the functionality of the commission is really something we have to take a look at, both that you guys can see each other's faces, which would be lovely, and also see like screen material, presentation material. So we'll work on that and have a more resolved space next time we see it.
Commissioner Hildebrand?
Thank you. A future commission can change the size of this board, which we went from 19 to 21 seats recently. So just, if you consider having that dais being flexible in size maybe, because we can go up to. Oh, we're maxed. Okay. Well, it could go down. It can go down, I guess.
So if everybody's real friendly too, you can always squeeze in,
yeah,
right?
But, you know, just so it's not so rigid that you can't have some flexibility, I think, on the size of the board, or if another group is using the space, you know, that you can have some flexibility on the size of that dais, I think.
Yep.
Commissioner DeBoer.
Good points.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be annoying and say a bathroom that's like within the boardroom, like in behind, okay. I've brought
we
it
got
up
you.
before, but I just want to make sure it's still in your mind.
We got you, at least one. We're working on that, yep.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Fit. We won't count your other ones.
Yeah,
You're
thanks,
first.
sorry I interrupted. So for the public coming into the chambers, they're still entering through the main sort of entrance and coming here? Or are you guys thinking like I'm just thinking like, say we're doing evening meetings or something
Yep.
like that. Do we have to have the whole building open for somebody to access this space? Or is it like there's a separate, I don't know what you're thinking there.
Well, so what we're imagining is across from this is elevator stair, bathroom core, across over to where this veteran services is, we're thinking that we potentially can close the building off there in the evening so that all this sort of lobby, clerky, all that service space could be controlled, cleaned, shut down for the day. And primarily, if you were coming to an evening chamber event, you would come in over and enter this space. We'll work out this too. I mean, maybe there's some control we can have here so that that's all that's really available to the bathrooms and we just need to make sure there's good exiting and safe exiting. So it's on our mind that you be able to, control the building in the evenings and not just have public available to go everywhere. Does that sound like we're on the same page?
Commissioner, yeah, I would say yes. The one thing that I would, just to flag that, I like from a security perspective that you're positioning the board chamber on like the kind of pedestal that it's on. From a, it'd be very hard to drive a vehicle into it, for example. But I do think that I'd really encourage to work with public safety. We just did a training on civilian response to active shooter incident. And the egress that we could maybe get, emergency egress out of there would be good, not only for the board, which we're talking about, but for the public. They gave examples of places that had choke points, where people, lost their lives because of an egress issue in the event of a fire or that kind of thing. So I just want to keep that top of mind too, more so for the public than for the board.
And Mr. Chair, I did want to say that the SEPTA group will be engaging with the architect in the process, so.
Good.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
So, just real quick, we're imagining the ability to get down from the chamber space to an exit door here that goes out a different direction than having to go back through the front in case we need to flush this room really quickly. For public, I think commissioners will be able to exit back through and out other doors if we have to get people out quickly. So it is definitely on everybody's mind on the design team of how we're making this safe, and we look forward to the collaborations. Yep.
Thank you. The other question I had, I think it would help me orient, it might be on those other slides. Sorry, guys, I keep interrupting, but where would the board, where would the dais be in the way you've sketched it so far relative to when we're looking at it on the outside?
So it can be in two orientations. The image that I just showed you, it's sort of here where board chamber is written, and it faces this way, so people come in from the side. It could also be at the back and people come in facing it. So we're kicking those two orientations around. It really depends on just like access to the support spaces that you all need and how that, I think having an answer for all of this purple area will give us the answer to what orientation the final room wants to be in.
Okay.
So.
Helpful, thank you. Commissioner Hensy.
I appreciate that you're listening to all of us and talking with us about our needs, for this boardroom. Are you doing this with all of the other departments as well? To talk, with the clerk's office or to treasurer's office on exactly what it is they need, their particular needs?
Yes, and we're a few meetings in, and actually part of the reason, sorry, I'm just getting seated, that's okay. Instead of continuing to kick him off the mic. Part of the reason that entry lobby, Chad was talking about it being the baby giraffe that will be majestic soon. We just had a follow-up meeting on Monday with all of those departments that will operate in the first floor, those public service areas. And so really looking at options on the counter and what do the openings feel like and how do we secure those? Is it a sliding window or a fixed window? So that was Monday, and then it got baked into that first pass. But yes, we're a number of meetings in with all of the different groups. In addition to, gosh, was that in February or March? They had an opportunity February to go to Hayworth's campus and see what can be seen there too about different ways of working. So yes, short answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Pakla, did you have one?
You answered my question.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you, Chair Green. I was a little critical, it's kind of your first couple meetings at executive a couple of years ago on the first couple designs. And again, I appreciate you listening to us. I think wow, a huge difference. So again, thanks for listening to us. Got a little ways to go yet, but again, I appreciate all your hard work and I think great job. Thank you.
See, you thought you were gonna get some criticism from Dan, but you got an attaboy, so that's always. Commissioner Steck, we don't have a big line right now, so we can go for a second.
And my mic's already on all this time, sorry about that. So I'm looking for, conference space is one of the things that commissioners would like to have, because we do have meetings that might not be huge meetings, but they could be more intimate, like 6 persons, 5 persons, so on. I don't see any conference rooms in here yet. Are they capable of being accommodated at that chamber level?
Yeah, so the program at the chamber does include a workroom similar to the space next door. Also, there's some press space we have to get in. So there'll be a couple of spaces that I think could be used for meeting right adjacent to chamber. In addition, the second floor, this training center area will have, more training room setup that you can use rooms there for meetings of maybe larger scale.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, 2, I'm not sure 2 is enough, given that I know frequently we have a lot of meetings here. They're bumping each other back and forth, so
Okay.
I would look at alternatives for maybe having them all in the same location and a variety of sizes available.
Yeah, I think probably the bulk of that will be on 2, and then there will be, 2, maybe 3 adjacent to chamber. Other than that, we're gonna start pushing out on that first floor, but
Yeah,
we'll have some.
it strikes me as more intuitive for the public to all go to the same location, right? So if it's to meet with the commissioners, it's going to be close to or in the same proximity of
Gotcha.
as the chamber.
Okay.
Others? I'd love for us to try to wrap in the next 10 minutes, so we're being respectful of our time. Commissioner Pakla and then Ponstein.
Maybe this just sort of parlays into the next part of the conversation, but what are the steps from here? Where are we going from the designs that we're seeing now until June, when we have a more in-depth sort of decision-making point? And maybe that's a Tamara and Mark conversation too.
I work for these guys.
Yeah, we're gonna incorporate all the comments that we've received from you today and then quickly transition that to our trade partners into another iteration of estimating. We're planning to have that due back to the project team by May 19th, because if we want to hit the June 2nd Finance Committee, that's the date that we need to hit. So we want to give you a financial update on how the project is trending at the Finance Committee meeting, and potentially be ready to amend our bond request at that time if that's the will of the board. But if it's not, and it's just a financial update, that's fine too. So that's our current plan moving forward. And then if it was the will of the board to move that bond amendment forward, that would kick off a 45-day period, and then the actual bond would come back to you once that 45-day period is closed. So there would be multiple, more touch points with the board.
Commissioner Ponstein?
Thank you, Chair Green. So back to with Ben's idea to separate the building more to kind of make that look better. And I don't know if that's the problem. I think the problem is, and I think Ben stated, is that you've got an old building going right to, next to a brand-new building. I don't know if it's gonna be an engineer or that's gonna solve this. You're gonna have to figure a way to have a transition between old and new. You'll see that in, when downtown cities are redeveloped, you can have varying different types of buildings there. But there's gotta be a transition zone. I don't know if it's something to distinguish that it is not part of that building. It's something completely different. And maybe bridge the gap somehow in that what space is there to develop something to accent that. But I don't know what that is. I think someone with an artistic flair would be able to give an idea. I don't know if, no criticism about engineers, but it's pretty much specs, and specs. So,
It's okay, I share your opinion sometimes. I think possibility here, if we can get a little bit more space in here and have a discrete, almost independent feeling space in between the two, I think that will help mediate the architecture between the historic and new. And we're also really hoping for a quality of architecture here that will be on par with that historic building. So, but really good thoughts, and I think we owe some investigation in that area.
Commissioner Faber.
Thank you, Chair. I do think we're gonna, if we are the most prominent kind of new building on site, I think we are gonna get people coming through the door for Network 180, for the health department, for the animal shelter, for the sheriff. Like, it's gonna be others coming in here and then potentially getting frustrated that they're not in the right place and have to get back in their car and drive down the road. So, the wayfinding earlier in the process, and I know balancing that with just kind of the, what we appreciate about more subtle, but having done wayfinding, unless you're hitting them over the head with a hammer, sometimes you can't get there. And so, I'm just wondering from the, as people come in, if there's still sort of, could we have some conversations with with others about, like, what are there things that could even be in this building that could be serviced, where somebody doesn't have to necessarily go down the road? I don't know. It kind of goes back to my kiosk idea, but I just kind of anticipate that it's still going to capture a lot of folks that aren't there for the thing they think they are, so.
Yeah, so my wife came to get a dog license and ended up at the jail. No joke, man.
That wasn't something she
They're like-
did while she was getting the license that got her up at the jail.
No, she didn't. They're like, lady, you are in the wrong place. So we get it. And maybe there's a campus-wide thing we can take a look at here to have some consistency and more of a campus directional signage language that could get deployed. Yeah.
Commissioner Bujak.
Thank you, Chair. I want to go back to your original question, which I didn't answer, and that was about the orientation. I like the orientation that you have, the directional orientation. And the question I have is about, let's call it, the old building. And so my first question was, what's the longevity of this new building? And if that new building is 50 years longevity, how old is this old building, and what's the plan for that? I mean, it sounds like that thing could be near 50 years, and are we going to tear that down? And if we do, then the orientation doesn't matter because we can move that building, the new building forward, and would we want to make that so that it's connected to the new building? I mean, have you guys talked about that old building?
Tim, you want to grab that?
I think I understand the question. So, Commissioner Bujak, I think you're speaking to the Network 180. The older.
Yes,
So
yes.
that actually does date back to the original hospital. It was built in 1922. It's been renovated, but We're not hearing anything from the Network 180 facilities team that it's kind of reaching end of life. We think that there's a lot more good use left in that building, so it's not kind of on the radar for anything, any demolition or remodel in the next couple of decades at least. And yeah, I think the county does own that building, but we lease it to Network 180, I think annually for $1, so they occupy and maintain. But does that answer the bulk of the
Well,
question?
I just find it interesting that we're saying this new building is a 50-year building, and that one's already like 100 years old,
Yeah.
over 100 years old.
Chad's saying it's a 50-year building. I think it's a 150-year building, but.
Yeah, so I'm just like, so I'm like, okay, well, then what about that building? We own it, we're gonna keep it going, that one for another 50 years?
Yes, as we carefully peel the hospital away from the eastern face of Network 180, we're gonna put investment back into that wall, and, that investment is intended to last, not 10 or 20 years, but many. We want it to continue to serve that building for a long time.
I think too, if I could just say that we're building with flexibility in mind in a way that they did not do 50 years ago. I mean, and so literally, when you think of the hospital and you think of the load-bearing walls and all the pillars and everything that limits that from being used by future generations in a different way as management, as use, as services change, we also have charged the architects with building it so it could be expanded upon someday. So we've got the land, we're building a building that my whole thing is make it look normal in the future if we have to expand on it. Give us a picture of what that could look like. And so that's why I think it is, to me, this isn't a 50-year thing, but it's hard to engage people in 100-year discussions too. I mean, because 50 seems like it's more something we can imagine easier than 100 sometimes, but.
And to really kind of maybe complete that question, so this is an addition that is planned if we needed more space, again, whether that's 20, 40, 50 years from now, but we wanted to show you that on the site, we have an additional, 30,000 to 40,000 additional square feet that we can add to the building. As the county continues to grow, the services and employment of everything that we do continues to grow, so that there was space and that it kind of connects with the building as designed on the site. And that's in your packet.
Yeah, Commissioner Burrow.
All right, thank you, Chair Green. Just real quick, I talked to corporate counsel as well, and what I mentioned was some retail possible options on that main floor, coffee shop, cafe. I know there's some restrictions along with it. I'm not sure if a building this size and that many people in there would support that. Obviously, with the two Network 180 next door, possibly it can, but not sure if that's a possibility or not.
Yeah, and as we look at a potential future for the Veterans Services space right now, they will be moving into the new county facility, and that is situated very well on a street corner to where perhaps a cafe or coffee shop or, there could be some use there that serves both the campus and others.
And then I think our restrictions are lifted on that. If it's in our county building, Brian was mentioning that there's some restrictions outside. Okay, all right, thank you.
I think it's zoned appropriately at the corner there.
I'm going to do PACLA, and then I'm going to call last call for anybody else that wants to get in. So go ahead, Commissioner PACLA.
Yeah, just building off of Commissioner Burrow's comment, this might be a down-the-road conversation, but the opportunity for food trucks or other things to come into the parking lot, really making sure that our staff here have those options, and we're not, sort of either making them go off-site or making everybody bring something every day. I think the space looks like it has that flexibility, but even thinking through from the early design perspective, how are we making sure there is that space for those kinds of things, or semi-permanent, parking spaces for trucks? Yep.
Yeah, and I think we gotta get the right power out there so they don't have to run generators. So, we'll put that on the radar.
Okay, it's last call. Commissioner Hennessy and Stack.
Switching gears just a little bit, can you give us the newest update, whatever might be, happening with the medical examiner? That's the other project that we're looking at that could potentially cost us money.
Sure, we spent all day Friday with medical examiner people from MSU. We've had 3 sites under consideration. We're starting to narrow in on one.
Okay.
I probably don't want to say more than that right now.
That's fine, that's fine.
Mr. Stepp?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Green. So if we are targeting a go, no-go kind of decision in June relative to this building, it strikes me that part of that conversation still engages what are we thinking about with respect to this building? What are we thinking about 82 Aonia, and how do the economics of all that interrelate? So I'd be looking for some update, and it doesn't have to be now, but at some point before we get there, that really brings us up to speed on what are the cost implications and planning on those.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because there are a number of moving pieces with this, and part of it is corralling all that into one recommendation that covers everything, so that you don't take action here, yet this other piece is unresolved over here. So our target is June, but our target was April. So again, we're putting all of our effort and all of our intention into making that happen, but when we have 3 completely different things that have a bearing on the finance picture and how we move forward, it may not be June, but our intent certainly is that it will be.
My contractor always says 2 weeks, so just use that.
All right. Anyone else? So I'll ask, I guess, Progressive, did you get some good information from us here today?
We did. I did want to just wrap up a
Yeah,
couple of
please, go ahead.
things. One on, we like the orientation, but we did have a lot of discussion on forward, backward, and proximity. When we pushed it back, did we all like nod our heads and take a breath and think that's better? Or, are we there? Do you think we have consensus on that? If next time we see this is back, will anybody be upset?
You spent enough time in this room, you found out somebody's gonna be upset no matter what, whether they're up here or out there.
As a group, are we okay, though? Yeah.
I think there's general comfortability with that. I'll put it this way, I don't hear anybody clamoring for it to stay as it is. I think everybody's probably open to see it the other way and look at that.
That sounds great. That was really the only thing I wanted to clarify from today, so I don't waste our time and your time. Yeah.
That and the bathroom. Oh.
Yeah. Lots of work on the bathroom.
For Progressive and for staff, as we wrap up, what are, anything that you're asking of us between now and June? Other feedback, anything like that? It's okay if the answer is no.
I would say to be determined. So,
Okay.
because Al mentioned there's multiple projects happening at once, there's variables happening with each individual project, so there's nuance that may appear that we would want more input. A lot of the input that we're gathering now is directly from staff and their function areas and what they need to be successful in each of the projects, including the backfill of what happens when we potentially move to the Fuller campus with the prosecutor in front of the court. So we are having all of those conversations now. If we do find that we need additional input, we'll be back in front of you.
Okay, great. All right, with that, the next item on the agenda is public comment. Is anybody from the public who wishes to speak on this today? I see, are you going to get up, Drain Commissioner Yonker?
Yeah.
This is an appropriate place, so I appreciate that. Good.
Yeah,
Welcome.
well, I have a comment to make, and it doesn't involve the building, but it does the proximity around it. I was asked yesterday that storage building where the old state police lab used to be, I have stuff stored in there, because that's the only place that accommodates kayaks, sandbags, and the like. I was asked to have that removed because they're tearing that building down. Now, that's a pole barn that's insulated. The thing is probably a $60,000, $70,000 building, and we're just gonna tear it down. And where do I go with my stuff? And why would we tear a building down like that and then spend another $60,000 to build another one? And it's out of the way, it's out of sight. If you don't like looking at it, put some trees in front of it. But removing that puts me in a bind. because I also have a lot of ponds that's high maintenance because of our plugging of outlets. Thus, I came up with a screen design that we're gonna start implementing those, but I can save about 25% on costs if I can order 10, 12 at a time. And I gotta have a place to put those until we're ready to do the work. And that's gonna go on in Kent County for drain work. So I'm just saying, I'm told to remove this stuff, so someone made a decision to tear down my storage area and others, and it doesn't make sense to me. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can go ahead, Tim.
Point of clarification, the building that Drain Commissioner Yonker is speaking to is not getting demolished. The storage building associated with the hospital, which facilities does have some things in, is getting demolished, and we need space in this other building where the Drain Commissioner's things are. So that building stays, is the current plan.
Right, and I had said to demolish the one by the hospital, because if we left that standing, it'd be pretty ugly to leave that in close proximity to a brand-new county building, so, but the Drain Commissioner's right, the one that he's referring to is a great building, it's out of the way, it serves a useful function, and we're not tearing that down.
It sounds like we still have to solve for the Drain Commissioner's storage issue. So we can discuss that.
We'll work on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Anybody else for public comment this morning? I don't see any. With that, oh, I guess there's commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments? I see none. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.